VelociPodcast. VelociPodcast. The Hollow.
Hey, sexy friend. He's making me his bitch. Maybe you want to get a piece of that. Welcome to VelociPodcast number 4. And this one is the last in the series of questions I have about superheroes. And it's about the Hulk's rapid expansion and contraction when he changes from Bruce Banner to the Hulk. And the first question is, when he goes from what seems to be an average-sized man to essentially a colossus of sorts, where does all that material come from? Now, I actually came up with an interesting answer for this because it actually, what I really want to talk about is the second part. But I have two ideas. One, it's a form of photosynthesis, which is why he's green, which ties that in together really nicely because it gives him a reason for being green as opposed to the fact that that was just a cheap ink. Or he just absorbs the water and material in the air around him. So he's just absorbing like oxygen and hydrogen and water and anything that's in the air to convert that rapidly into new material, which is what his body is composed of. Most of our body is composed of water anyways. So just taking water from the air and expanding your muscles and stuff would actually make a certain amount of sense. That's great. So I could actually accept either of those answers. I'm sure there's some other ones that would be great, but material just doesn't happen. It just doesn't exist out of nothing. That leads to a slightly more disturbing secondary question of where does all that material go after he shrinks down again? The process of him going from being the Hulk to Bruce Banner again takes only a matter of seconds. So that extra material has to be flushed out of his system really quickly. And that is sort of my first clue as to what should happen. Because to me, in my head, because it's probably water or something like water, amino acids and stuff, it's liquid. And we don't see him vomit, although I think that would actually be really appropriate. To me, it seems that when the Hulk shrinks down into Bruce Banner, he should almost instantaneously take a massive pee. Or, probably more realistically, he should take a massive liquid poop. Now, no one wants to see that. No one wants to draw that into a cartoon. And that's fine. But my thinking is that the matter has to be absorbed into his body. He becomes huge. And when he shrinks down, that matter has to be disposed of. And that's, again, it's something really gross that one of the things that they don't want to add into a comic for kids. One of my coworkers actually started discussing quantum states and the distance between atoms and how that we are made up of mostly nothing, which is a fair claim. I didn't like it because it wasn't as funny as taking a poop. But I brought that as a question to a friend of mine who studied physics, and he brought up the issue of if that's how he expands and contracts, there are two issues. One is the massive instability it would create. And that would basically mean that he could be, when expanding, he could just keep expanding and explode. It'd be like a nuclear bomb. That would be an interesting story because it could be if he gets too angry. So he gets angry and that sets off this process. If he gets too angry, it just keeps going and he gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I actually don't know if that's what happens. So does the level of anger change how much of a Hulk he becomes? It doesn't seem that way. It seems he becomes just state A, gets angry, and then state B. The more terrifying aspect of this is when he shrinks down. He should generate a massive amount of heat and just burn the whole area around him because all that energy has to go somewhere because as he contracts, that the problem occurs that energy has to go somewhere. So it's the same problem as I have earlier, only I was using sort of physical matter. If you do it with just energy, that energy still has to go somewhere. So yeah, every time he shrinks down, just a massive burn hole around him and anyone close to him dies. Kind of interesting, to be honest. Or, and this was the most interesting part to me, was that if he collapsed and just kept collapsing, he could actually become a singularity and develop into a black hole. Again, stability becomes a big issue when you start messing with quantum space. And again, my coworker said that he's a unique individual, but humans by nature change over time. And that's what my physicist friend said. Which means, yes, he was stable when it happened at first, but over time, his state would change, therefore making him more unstable. which, to be honest, is a great storyline. So if Marvel wants to pick that up, all I want is a finder's fee. I don't expect a huge payday for this. But again, if you have any theories as to what happens when the Hulk particularly shrinks, that's the bit I'm more interested in. I'd like to see it in the comments.